Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this podcast on the Diplomacy Next. I am Maharaj Bhatt, your host, and I'm being joined by Dr. Nimthiangai, and she is a professor, associate professor at Center of Social Medicine and Community Health, School of Social Sciences, JNU. This is a very important podcast. I have one earlier last week on the entire Manipur issue. Now that I won't have another one, or maybe we'll be having another two, three in the sequence to understand the issue from different perspectives. Since this is an academic podcast, I reckon that it's very important for the young researchers to understand the issue from the very realistic perspective. That's why I have waited for Dr. Nimthiangai to actually join me on this conversation. Before we can start, this podcast is powered by Studybox Academy. Learn, unlearn, and relearn. That's our motto, which is located in my own district that most of the audience will be familiar with. So apart from all the noises that we see across the TV channels, we have seen people talking about the issue from the security perspective, from the tribal perspective, from the governance perspective, and also from the political perspective as well. Apart from that, people also, or analysts also, have been going with the social perspective as well. So before we start, I would like to welcome Dr. Nimthiangai on the podcast.
Thank you, Maras, for your warm welcome and giving the opportunity to speak on this very important issue on Manipur violence, and also your interest in the issue altogether.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. First, let's just draw the issue and something that most of the audience will be waiting to understand it. What are the current developments as of now, even after the Prime Minister has spoken on the issue, even after there has been lots of talks about the entire issue after the women were paraded naked by a particular ethnic group. They have been arrested, few of them, I guess 6 have been arrested so far. Why do you see it in its current form?
See, to begin with, I believe even you have been following closely of the violence and the recent uproar and outrage regarding the video which has surfaced 2 days ago, and which actually has rocked the conscience of the larger nation because it is related to women sexual assault and a violence against women. So this is the situation, even though this violence has been going on for the past 2.5 months. And the recent video which has resurfaced is of an incident which has happened on the 4th of May, right? So then the Prime Minister, who has been silent for the past 2.5 months, spoke up day before yesterday, condemning the act of sexual assault, rape, and parading a woman naked. So specific to that, the Prime Minister have spoken up. But entirely on the ethnic violence, he has not yet neither spoken up, neither has taken any conclusive decision on it. See, right now the situation is such that we have the Métis, who are the majority ethnic community of Manipur, saying that they don't want to break the territorial integrity of the state. And we have the Kuki-Zo community, who I would term it as a community who has larger number of casualties, and a community who has been driven out from the Imphal Valley. They are now adamant in their demand for separate political administration. And there is another major ethnic community, which is the Naga Tangkhul community. And they are yet to take a stand on the entire ethnic violence. So this is the present situation. And the Kuki-Zo community has been here in Delhi also, and also been very vocal in their demand for political separate administration, because the kind of violence which has been meted out in these past 2.5 days is beyond humanity, and it was barbaric to happen such kind of violence at this 21st century. So they are that of the strong belief that they will not be able to coexist together again with the majority Métis community. So this is the present situation, and many protests has been organized, and then meeting with the government representatives, talking with those agencies who are representing the government. So all these are underway. And there are many other issues which has kind of led to this situation. But one thing which is very surprising is that how the violence broke out, and then suddenly within 2-3 days, how there was this mass evacuations of the Imphal Valley by the Kuki-Zo community because of that, the mass attack which was happening. It was like a tornado which is coming and targeting only the Kuki-Zo community. So you can see that there is a strong divide and a strong target for particularly of this Kuki-Zo community. Because why am I saying this? Because in the Imphal Valley, you have the Naga community also residing over there. So, but they are not targeted. There are churches which are of the Naga community. They are not targeted. So only the churches which are of the Kuki-Zo community, the churches, there are Métis Christians also. So the Métis Christian churches, so they are all targeted and they were all burned down. So this is the situation.
If I may correct you on this, why did this entire ethnic clashes start from? If we talk of the current ethnic violence that has actually taken Manipur by most of the casualties, some of the portals will say that they are more than 150. Some will say it ranges between 250 or 300. We have to understand the basic borderline that if historically these two communities, be that Kukis, be that Métis, they do live together despite some minor clashes reported. Historically, it's not that much a big thing to gauge from whatever is happening currently on the ground. But after the High Court issued an order that read as giving reservations to the Métis as well. Why did it start from? Say, for example, you are saying that on the May 4th, the first this parading of the women naked happened. This episode happened, and it took around 60 days or 70 days for it to come out. What happened at that particular point or a particular day that triggered the clashes?
On the 4th May, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There was this, how it triggered exactly, if we go by the media reports, because since I'm not there present at the ground zero, but there was this peace protest march, which was organized by all the tribals together, which is happening even in the Naga occupied hill districts and also in the Kuki-Zo occupied hill districts. So there was a peace protest march, which is a protest against basically of the High Court order of, considering the Métis community as the scheduled tribe, to be considered the Métis community as the scheduled tribe status. So in that peace process, then there was this, that while the peace process was going on, so there was this burning of that memorial uprising, which was, the Memorial Gate uprising, which is been, that was, the gate is basically to commemorate, the Kuki people, these things who have kind of lost their, how will I put it? I mean, in those, it has been, I would just go back by saying that there has been a series of, in the past 5 to 10 years, there has been a series of, I would say, discontentment against the policy of the Chief Minister, Biren Singh. Either it be related to the land reforms, either it be related to, I think hunting down on the hill areas where the few Kukis, Zou communities were alleged to be, cultivating poppy in those areas. So there has been those series of reports that has been happening, and then accusation that there are those who are doing those cultivations are the illegal immigrants, which is coming from Myanmar. So those series of episodes have been happening, with the, which kind of create a lot of discontent among the Kuki community. And I would say, as historical past is also something which is involved, in the sense there is a historical narrative in terms of the Métis understanding of what is their land, and the Métis projection of the Kuki community, the Kuki Zou community, as an illegal immigrants who has come into India through Myanmar and has gained a citizenship as an Indian citizen and have been residing in Manipur. So there have been that in the past 10 years. I am not that person who follow closely in terms of what political developments has been taking place, because since we have migrated out of Manipur for a better employment and a better education opportunities. But as being from there, the news and the kind of development, political development taking place, it do kind of affect us if we follow up closely. So there have been 3 bills. There are famous 3 bills which were introduced. It is related to the NRC on citizenship issues and all those things. And then you have the Forest Rights Act, where the rights of the tribal people over the forest, access to the forest are restricted. So all this series of interventions and policies which is against the interests of the Kukis or communities was happening in the past term of the present CM Biren Singh. Like, this is his second term. He has successfully completed the first term, and during the first term, as a chief minister, he was having popularity among, all irrespective of the ethnic affiliation or communities, among all the people. But in his second term, he comes out very strongly against the interests of the Kuki-Zou community. So there are those 3 bills, NRC, looking into who all are citizens of India, who all are illegal immigrants. So the state machineries and the mechanism were geared up to look into all these things. And in fact, on record, and as also reported by the media, illegal immigrants were identified. But here the question is that you cannot label the whole Kuki-Zou community as an illegal immigrants, or as a narcotic traders, or as a population who is living on cultivation of opium or poppy and all these things. So, when I see the whole thing, if you ask me personally, I see that how the violence has has been unfolded, and the kind of violence happening, it's all planned and it's been targeted to terrorize the Kuki-Zo community to leave the valley, and also further terrorize so that they leave even their land. So I'll just bring back to you how this ST status demand and how the violence are connected. And you asked me what was the situation that triggered this violence, right? So there are a lot of story in the terms of blame game. So here you see the Kuki-Zo blaming the Métis blaming the Kuki-Zo, saying that you have started the violence and this. So the blame game goes on, the discontentment on the other side. But when I see it neutrally, I feel that this whole violence which has been happening to a particular community, and where you have more casualties in that minority tribal Kuki-Zo communities. So it becomes very clear that it was mainly the majoritarian Métis community which is trying to drive out this community from the Imphal Valley, and also they want to drive them out from the districts which they are presently occupying, mainly the so-called Churachandpur district, which is bordering Manipur and Mizoram. It's on the southern district. So even in that district, there has been a debate and a kind of struggle to say that, the name of the state, Churachandpur itself, is the name of the king of Métis. So it signifies that, that area belongs to the Métis people, wherein the naming has nothing to do with the ownership, or with the naming of that district has nothing to do with the history of the people who are staying there. Like the Métis has never occupied that area, never occupied that area, even in the past, in history, during the Britishers' time. So there are, I don't know, if you want to listen into the history, then it will be another, one session altogether. But there no common narrative of the historical past of the state is not possible even till this time.
There are two things that I need to bring in here. Despite the presence of heavy police force, despite having rapid action force on the ground, despite having military being brought in to control the violence, what actually bars them to conduct their normal action against the people who may be either amongst the people who have actually triggered this violence or are participants in it? B, when you talk about the CMs, the current CM, that's their Syrian's current actions or bills that we talk of, to stopping the trade of or cultivation of the opium. Why do these two things actually go? From the perspective, you have to tell the audience that the bills that were being brought in by the chief minister, you say, and I quote, is that it is a majoritarian decision that labels every Kuki as an infiltrator or as somebody who is involved into the drug trade. Number one. Number two is that despite presence of the heavy forces, what actually isn't happening is that the violence isn't stopping. So what do you think maybe the cause is responsible for that?
See, the ongoing violence, the violence not stopping, has to do more with the, the state ability to maintain law and order in the state, right? So here you see, you have a chief minister who is not, I would say, not neutral, and who is sides of the majority Métis. He himself is a Métis. By the way, in Manipur, there has, most of the chief ministers have always been the Métis. except for one term where a Tangkhul Naga chief minister we had, and a Meitei Muslim chief minister we have. So the otherwise, it's always chief ministers have always been the majoritarian Meitei. So in this context, here, why am I saying this? Because the chief minister has been there are clear evidence where the chief minister is taking side, or his what will I say, his decision, and the kind of bias which he has shown in terms of taking action against the perpetrators can be seen in many of the instances. Like, for example, this recent rape case which has featured, even in that, the Manipur police were hand in gloves with the mob. The two lady, they, as per their testimony and as per the FIR they have filed, they went to the Manipur police for protection, thinking that they will be safe. So they were in the Manipur police gypsy when the village was attacked by this mob. So they ran towards the Manipur police thinking that it's the safe zone. But to their surprise and horror, they have been handed over to the mob to be paraded naked and to be raped in the paddy field. So, this is the situation. And another thing is the arms and ammunition which were looted from the Manipur police station. And these arms and ammunitions were around 4,000 arms and ammunition, which was looted from the armory of the Manipur police. And as per the media reports and narratives, these arms and ammunitions were looted. But there is a video which is surfacing where you have an activist from Manipur saying that these are not looted. They have been handed over to the militants. And one more point I want to make here is that there is two groups of this time who are the main perpetrators of the violence. It is not some outfits or militants. They are the cultural organizations, which are termed as the Arambai Tengol and Meitei Lipun. And the CM Biren Singh is closely associated with them. And there are evidences of his group photographs and meeting with them. So, and having the leader as his cabinet members. And in the past also, because this Manipur being in that border areas, so in that golden triangle border areas where there is a illegal narcotic trades going on. And, in this whole episode, when now it's unfolding, you see that a very strong nexus of the politicians with the drug dealers and then people from Myanmar. And then here the scapegoat, or let's say the labeling, goes to this particular Kuki Zo community. It is, I'm not denying, or I'm not saying that there are people who are not involved in the cultivation of opium, or which we popularly call it as poppy, right? So we see the role of this plant in the violence also. But here, the question is that, okay, if the government have known about this, they know about it, they have raided those hills and places, and there were news reporting that those areas were also cleared and burned. The cultivation, the plants, they all are burnt and everything. But still, the real, as per the ground reality and reports, it's a face was to say that yes, the person has done something towards that as per acting on the Forest Act, Forest Rights or Land Reforms Act. But here the main intention, which comes out very clear, is to gain that access to those areas. This is one. And secondly, if you feel that what is going on in terms of a cultivations of a opium and a poppy, then why are you not giving them an alternative to livelihood. People are poor, people have no employment. The government systemic structural violence in terms of not even giving them proper employment can also be seen as a very strong culprit in the entire violence. See, when it comes to vacancies in government jobs and all, even though you may be a very qualified meritorious person, if you don't have the money to bribe either the elected political representative who are sitting in the commission, who have to decide what is who should be employed, not on the basis of the merit, but more on the basis of the money. So people are poor, people don't have that kind of amount to give it to the politicians. Those who can afford, they do. So you see, this vicious cycle of corruption has been going on. Even if they get a job, then again, those people who got a job will get into corruption to, pay off the amount of loan which they have taken to bribe the politicians. So this is not only the case with Manipur, we can see in many other parts of India as well. But the sad part is this is how most of our country, where there is no infrastructure in terms of, let's say, a company or a industry are not set up in this kind of remote location. So people have no other alternative except either they get into agricultural activities or either they get into a government job. There is no other options of like industry or, a capitalist or a company coming into that region and doing an investment in that region. So this is one very strong point which has, come out from this violence also, that the state, in terms of law and governance, it has been crumbling. And actually the present government has actually kind of promoted this kind of hatred towards another community. And even the mob, as I earlier named, the two cultural organizations have been turned into a militants, or let's say a terrorist, because I would say any armed group which terrorize people is a terrorist to me, to my definition. So they have become a terrorist in this entire violence. So, and there is a clear evidence of them who are involved in carrying out the entire attack and violence. And then you see when the Kuki-Zo community were kind of terrorized and forced to vacate the Imphal Valley, then after that there has been an attempt by other neighboring state, like from the Chief Minister of Mizoram, to airlift those who are stuck in the Imphal Valley. And even that request was turned down by the state and the central government, to airlift the people. So people who could afford and who have relative outside Imphal, maybe the nearest can be like Silchar, Guwahati, Kolkata, Aizawl, or Kohima. So people took either a flight ticket, or if they have to go out, they have to wait for some 3-4, I think in fact even more than a week, for the armed forces to escort them and to help them vacate the Imphal Valley through escort, right? So this was the situation as in like when the violence happened on the 4th, and this was going on entire May. And there was finally, I think within 1 month, the Imphal Valley was evacuated by the Kuki-Zo tribes. So I would say there was the exodus of the Kuki-Zo tribe took place in the month of May. But even after that, the attack continues in their villages, in the Kuki-Zo villages. So the attack were continued, the attack was done, and the village volunteers they defend, they protect their village. They were trying to defend their villages. Some they could defend, some they could not. So in the village, the Métis militants, they went into the villages, they burned the village houses, they burned the churches, they burned the livestock, and they killed, they don't even spare, women, children, elderly, disabled, mentally challenged. So this kind of horrifying activities they carried out. And the deaths which were reported of the Métis militants were deaths, they went and die in the Kukizou villages. So what does it say? It says that they are the one who came out to attack. And then if a person defend oneself, so defense is not, I would say defense is what we can do. We cannot, the Kuki community are never into an offensive mode. They were always in a defensive mode till this time. And when any kind of war or conflict, civil war broke out, there is always a code of conduct. But this time the Métis community has, the Métis militants, I would say, because there may be some Métis who are not agreeing to this kind of violence carried out by their other Métis fellow. So code of conduct wherein you don't touch or you don't kill a children and woman and an elderly, right? So this kind of incident is not reported and is not heard of from Kukizou villages or from the Kukizou who were protecting the villages. And then now the Métis term them, there are Kuki militants, the Kuki militants. But even the Kuki militants, there are no reported incidents wherein the women, children are treated the way which they have been doing with the Kukizou women, the recent cases. That's only tips of the iceberg. There are many other cases and there are many other casualties which has been happening against the women and children of the Kukizou community. Yeah.
So as if I can make most of what you are saying is that it is the failure and breakdown of the governance mechanism.
Entirely.
Entirely. And there are issues of corruption, unemployment, that actually is creating an enabling environment for the drug trade also, and for doing something that's anti-state. Apart from that, you also said that people have no options but to take up the drug trade, or for that matter, do something that doesn't go well with the other civilized groups. But there are also instances where we can say is that women blocking the roads and not letting the armed forces to get into the areas where actually the violence is taking place, and where actually there are hideouts where people actually are trying to use women as shields or weaponizing women, what they say. How far, what's this thing all about?
Yeah, see, women status in the state of Manipur has always been a very, I would say, women has always played a very important roles in terms of preventing, or in terms of doing away with social evils like alcoholism or drug addiction, because the area being, as I already said, in that border area. So we have been dealing with this issue of drug addictions. And I believe you must be aware that when HIV/AIDS epidemic broke out, and we have, the highest number of HIV/AIDS incidents in Manipur, which is spread through injecting drug users. So this kind indicate the high level of, drug abuse in the state. And we lost our youths in their prime time to these drugs. And this drugs abuse, which is still prevailing, and there are many intervention steps that has been taken place in terms of setting up a rehabilitation camp or rehabilitation centers, or maybe intervention through introducing many kind of vocational activities in the form of training the youths into football or sports and various other kinds of engagement. But in this whole, I've been talking about initial days when HIV/AIDS epidemic broke out, just to highlight the point that how this area has been vulnerable in terms of drug abuse, and how this area has been trying to fight against all these social evils of alcohol addictions and drug abuse. And that's where I see a very important role of the women's group in dealing with this kind of an issue. Then we have another, because of the Armed Forces Special Power Act, we have the women coming up in a big way to to remove this Armed Forces Special Power Act from the state. But again, we see the state and the central not removing that from the state, and the general public, there are many instances where general public have been at the receiving end of violence or maltreatment at the hand of the armed forces, right? Because that act kind of empower the armed forces to conduct operations, or to kind of do as per the act of in the name of in the name of attacking a terrorist. So sometimes such kind of acts are also misused against the civilians. So we see that many civilians have lost their life in that process also. And the women's group has always been vocal and always came as a human seal, to protect the civilians from this kind of violence. This time, in this episode of violence, which is between two ethnic communities, now these women groups also could not rise above that ethnic affiliation. So the loyalty to your ethnic communities blinded you not to see that the violence which is happening on the other woman is a woman, but they look it as, the woman as of belonging to other community. So then becomes an enemy for them. So that the collective understanding that of one woman to another is absent in this entire violence. And there are incidences of like the women's group coming up and telling their son to rape or to kill those cookies or women which were caught while they were in their job. And there is these two ladies who are working in some private run firm. So this kind of episodes has come out, and then the women group itself also helping or facilitating the mob to carry out an attack on the other woman. There is a particular case which is really shocking for every one of us, was a case of a 7-year-old boy, Tonsing Hang Sing, that's his name. His mother is a Meitei and his father is a Kuki. And they were in a camp, in the armed forces camp, and then a sniper had shot the boy and on his head, and the mother could not see that her son is dying in the camp. So she took the help of the armed forces and then took an ambulance, and they were rushing towards the Regional Institute of Medical Sciences in Imphal. Then on the way, they were stopped by this woman group. And with the help of the mob, the ambulance was burned. She is a Meitei, but she is not spared. So, you could not see the pain and the cry of a mother who is trying to save her son. So it's so gruesome that this time, why this women group are not taking up or coming up very strongly in, bringing about peace and to end the violence. Not only this, they have been used by the CM, by the ruling party, when he kind of display his resignation, when he said that, okay, he could not control the law and order situation in the state, so he's going to give the resignation. So there was a whole lot of drama, which you can see even in the news, media reports carried out, that the chief minister is going towards the house of the governor, and then the resignation letter was like torn apart by this women's group. So, you see how they have been used for the to serve and to keep the violence going on. And then they were not allowed to, and they were not allowing the armed forces to carry out their task of peacekeeping. They act as a human shield. They don't allow the armed forces to enter the particular villages. So they let their Métis militants to attack. In the meantime, to attack a Kuki-Zo village, and they will be stopping the armed forces, acting as a human shield. So this kind of episodes and reporting are there. I cannot spell out each and everything, but if you want me to spell out, I can open my file and I can tell you the date-wise record of the incidences which are happening, the field notes which are happening, which I have kind of compiled and documented from the media reports and from various other social media, either it be print, audio, visuals, So there are accounts of such kinds of incidences. And at the same time, I also want to say here that it's not one-sided. There are casualties among the Métis also, but those casualties are not happening in the Imphal Valley. Those casualties are happening in the Kuki-Zo villages because they came to attack, right? It's not the Kuki-Zo who came down to the Imphal Valley and attacking them. So those casualties are there. And then as the violence ongoing, things unfolded, then there is also they started protesting and burning the house of the MP Rajya Sabha, of the Valley MP. So, and then they were also trying to attack the chief minister. So there were also a lot of, misunderstanding, internally, what will I say, internal discontentment, even among themselves. When you see the hill areas, excluding those villages which they have attacked and which they have kind of terrorized the people to leave those villages, excluding those villages, comparatively, there is peace in those hilled areas. So the disturbed area is the Imphal Valley, because they want that valley, that place should be clear of all the Kuki-Zo community who are inhabiting there. And I mean, I believe that we cannot just assume that everyone will know the topography and the geography or the demography of Manipur. But to be in a nutshell, I'll say that, the state, if we look at the topography, like the valley is in the middle and it's surrounded by the hills, and it's a beautiful landlocked. And in fact, Pandit Nehru has said it's the Switzerland of India. And in the plain areas, in the hills, you have the Métis majority who are residing there. And it is the most fertile land in the whole entire of Manipur. And the hill areas, you have the tribals who are residing. And in terms of the, square kilometer or the measurements, the hill areas may be huge, but the habitable area and the fertile area are very less as compared to the Imphal Valley. So this is also one argument which has come out very strongly, that the hill areas why there is a population concentration in the valley and why people are coming down to the valley and not residing in the hill areas. So there are many issues, Mehraj, but exactly I hope I'm able to kind of throw some light to what you are looking for, because there are many perspectives to it, I would say, and historical accounts of how people look at the history of Manipur, from historians to political activists to academicians and to the common man. So what is the narrative or the general narrative which has been running through in understanding why is this violence happening? So, but yeah, I